Hare Krishna. We continue reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is. We begin chapter 7 today, which is entitled Knowledge of the Absolute. So Krishna has been giving knowledge to Arjuna. Now he's giving him knowledge of the Absolute. So Bhagavad Gita is mainly divided into three parts. The first 6 chapters, then there are the middle 6 chapters, and then there are the last 6 chapters. So 1 to 6 and then 7 to 12. Those are the most confidential part of Bhagavad Gita. That's why they're put in the middle. You know, if something valuable, we want to cushion it very nicely. We want to hide it. We want to package it well. So the middle part of the Bhagavad Gita is what deals with bhakti. It deals with bhakti and it is put in the in the middle part of the Bhagavad Gita. So Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Mai Asakta Mana Partha Yogam Yunjanmad Ashrayaha Asham Shayam Samagram Mam Yatha Gyan Yasi Tat Shrinu. Tat Shrinu. Krishna is telling Arjuna, try to hear. Tat Shrinu. Try to hear. He's telling us also, so how can we get spiritual knowledge? How we can get transcendental knowledge? We have to try to hear. Hear from who? Hear from the authorities. Hear in the disciplic succession. So translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. In this 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the nature of Krishna consciousness is fully described. Krishna is full in all opulences. How he manifests such opulences is described herein. Also, 4 kinds of fortunate people who become attached to Krishna and 4 kinds of unfortunate people who never take to Krishna are described in this chapter. So Krishna, God, he has all the opulences. Everything belongs to him. So all the opulences also belong to him. And how he has manifested this opulence, Krishna gives us some knowledge about it in this chapter. Okay. In the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the living entity has been described as non-material spirit soul, capable of elevating himself to self-realization by different types of yogas. So Krishna tells Arjuna in 2nd chapter that each living entity is not the body, but is the soul, and that each living entity is eternal living entity. And Krishna also tells him, you know, how by karma yoga, by karma kand, you can come to Gyan Yoga, you can come to Karma Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. Krishna is giving him different knowledge to Arjuna to achieve perfection. He's giving him different methods. At the end of the 6th chapter, it has been clearly stated that the steady concentration of the mind upon Krishna, or in other words, Krishna consciousness, is the highest form of all yoga. So Krishna says, Yoginam api sarvesham mat gatena antaratmana. That the highest yogi is one who's always thinking of me. That's the highest yogi. That is Krishna consciousness, fixing our mind on Krishna. By concentrating one's mind upon Krishna, one is able to know the absolute truth completely, but not otherwise. So the absolute truth, what is the absolute truth? Who is the absolute truth? If we are genuine in our inquiry, Athato Brahma Jigyasa, spiritual life begins with the inquiry into the absolute truth. Then how do we know it? By simply we can understand by concentrating our mind upon Krishna, by fixing our mind on Krishna, the truth will be revealed. Krishna will reveal the truth to us when we fix our mind on Krishna. Impersonal Brahmajyotir or localized Paramatma realization is not perfect knowledge of the absolute truth because it is partial. So Brahmatmeti, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagwaneti, Shabdayate. Bhagavatam teaches us that the absolute truth is realized in three features as the Brahman, the light, the Brahmajyoti, then is the Paramatma feature, and in totality as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So understanding the absolute truth as Brahman or the light is a partial realization. It's not perfect knowledge of the absolute truth. One may come to the point of partial realization of the absolute truth, and still one has to progress further. The journey is not yet complete till the time one comes to understand the absolute truth in perfection. Full and scientific knowledge is Krishna, and everything is revealed to the person in Krishna consciousness. Full and scientific knowledge is Krishna. So Krishna, he's God. Everything comes from him. Everything belongs to him. So there's Krishna and Krishnas. Krishna, the Supreme Lord, God, Krishna is there, and anything else and everyone else belong to God. So in complete Krishna consciousness, one knows that Krishna is ultimate knowledge beyond any doubts. So when one is completely in Krishna consciousness, one understands that Krishna is the ultimate. Not that I'm not the ultimate. Krishna is the ultimate. I am part and parcel of Krishna, yes, but ultimate is Krishna. I am not Krishna. Different types of yoga are only stepping stones on the path of Krishna consciousness. One who takes directly to Krishna consciousness automatically knows about Brahmajyoti and Paramatma in full. So if one directly takes up the process of bhakti, Krishna consciousness, one understands that Krishna is God, the Brahmajyoti is the light coming from his body, and Paramatma is his feature by which he's pervading the entire material creation, and also Paramatma is the feature in which he's accompanying each and every individual soul. So we can get this knowledge immediately by engaging in Krishna consciousness, by the method of bhakti. We do not have to separately try to understand the Brahmajyoti through Gyan, then from Gyan process, go to Ashtanga Yoga to understand the Paramatma, then from Paramatma go to Bhakti. Well, we can if we want to, but if we take up Bhakti, we can understand the absolute truth in complete. By practice of Krishna consciousness, yoga, one can know everything in full, namely the absolute truth, the living entities, the material nature, and the manifestations with paraphernalia. So if we really want to know the absolute truth, we want to understand the absolute truth, we want to understand the position of the living entities, of the souls, we want to understand the position of this material world, we want to understand all the manifestation, then we can understand all of it simply by taking up the process of Krishna consciousness, taking up the process of devotional service, taking up hearing and chanting. One should therefore begin yoga practice as directed in the last verse of the 6th chapter. Concentration of the mind upon Krishna, the Supreme, is made possible by prescribed devotional service in 9 different forms, of which Shravana is the first and most important. We can see even in Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Kapila Dev is saying that the yogi has to fix the mind on my form, has to fix the mind on the form of God. Similarly, here Krishna is saying that the yogi who has fixed his mind on me is the highest yogi. He's saying that. So we can understand what is the ultimate goal, to fix our mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. That is the beginning of yoga practice. What is the end of Ashtanga Yoga is the beginning in Bhakti. Where Ashtanga Yoga finishes, Bhakti begins. So then, Shravanam is the first of the 9 different forms of devotional service, hearing. The Lord therefore says to Arjuna, Tat Shrinu, or hear from me. No one can be a greater authority than Krishna, and therefore by hearing from him, one receives the greatest opportunity to become a perfectly Krishna conscious person. So Krishna is the greatest authority. He's God. That's the reason Bhagavad Gita has so much value, because this is the word of God, the song of God, if we literally translate Bhagavad Gita, song of God. So he's the greatest authority and we should hear from him. And when we are hearing from Krishna, we are getting an opportunity to become perfectly Krishna conscious, to get perfection, to understand the absolute truth. Tat Shrinu. We are not Krishna. We do not manufacture a new way of philosophy. No, we hear from the greatest authority, who is Krishna. One has therefore to learn from Krishna directly or from a pure devotee of Krishna and not from a non-devotee, upstart, puffed up with academic education. So Krishna is saying, Tat Shrinu. He's saying, hear from me. So hearing from Krishna or hearing from his pure devotee is the same as hearing from Krishna. Why? Because the knowledge is the same. The pure devotee simply repeats what he has heard from his spiritual master, who has heard from his spiritual master, who has heard from his spiritual master. A pure devotee does not make up new ideas, new philosophies. No, he just simply repeats what he has heard in the disciplic succession. And the starting of the disciplic succession is Krishna himself. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, this process of understanding Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, is described in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto as follows. Shanvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridi Anthasto Hi Abhadrani Vidunoti Suhrit Satam Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtiki Tada Rajastamo Bhavaha Kama Lobha Dayaschaye Cheta eter anavidham sthitam sattve prasiddhati evam prasana manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate vidyate hridaya grantes chidyante sarva samshayaha shriyante chasya karmani Drishta evat manishware. So Bhagavatam is saying this. What is Bhagavatam saying? To hear about Krishna. Bhagavatam is saying to hear about Krishna. From where? From Vedic literatures. Or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. So Krishna is there in our heart. And when we are hearing about Krishna from the right source, then Krishna, who is the Paramatma in our heart, he himself cleans our heart. He cleans our heart. He acts as our best wishing friend. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. So each and every living entity, we have this transcendental knowledge. It's just we have forgotten it. But by hearing about Krishna, because Krishna helps to clean our heart, then we can remember this knowledge. We can develop this knowledge, which is there dormant in our heart. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. So we need to hear regularly, hearing and chanting. The more we hear from the Bhagavatam, then we will become fixed in devotional service. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lusts and avarice are diminished. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. So we can see now, when we are hearing from Bhagavatam, when we are hearing from the devotees, then gradually, the devotee, he becomes fixed in devotional service. And because of that, the passion and lust, all the material, the ignorance goes away. It goes away. And even the material goodness goes away. He's fixed in pure goodness, which is liberated platform. Liberation, he achieves liberation. And at that point, he gets enlivened by devotional service, the joy he feels in devotional service. And at that point, he can understand the science of God perfectly. So he gets perfect knowledge at that stage of liberation, of pure goodness. This all just by hearing from about Krishna from Srimad Bhagavatam. Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of Ashamshayam Samagram, understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth Personality of Godhead. Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 17 to 21. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. So if we at all want to understand the science of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we need to hear from Krishna or from his pure devotees. And in this way, the hard knot of material affection is severed, and immediately one can come to this position of understanding the Supreme Lord. It's just by continuing to hear. Is that okay?
Yes.
So Bhagavatam is telling us, you continue to hear and you will come to this position, perfection, the point of perfection where you will have complete knowledge. Your ignorance will be gone. You will get this complete knowledge, the transcendental knowledge that you're looking for. So Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.